Greetings. Today I will be discussing the prophecies of the popes. I believe this prophecy is a true message from God and a great blessing. It is an incredibly detailed prophecy that has to a great extent already come true. Most of all, it is an alarm clock which tells us that the time of the tribulation is here. In 1139, St. Malachy, Archbishop of Armagh, Ireland, visited the Vatican. On the steps of the Vatican, St. Malachy had a vision of all future popes, 111 popes in all. Each pope had a short descriptive phrase such as lily of the fields next to their number. People have been amazed over the centuries at how accurate these descriptions turned out to be. Critics claim that the list has been altered over the years to fit papal candidates, but this prophecy was made public around the year 1600, so it could not have been altered since then. The prophecy ends with the 112th and last name on the list, Petrus Romanos, or Peter the Roman. The prophecy concludes as follows. In extreme persecution, the seat of the Holy Roman Church will be occupied by Peter the Roman, who will feed the sheep through many tribulations, at the term of which the city of 7 hills will be destroyed, and the formidable judge will judge his people. The end. On the 13th of March, 2013, Peter the Roman, whom the world had been anxiously waiting for, arrived and took the name Francis. Calling himself Francis does not invalidate the prophecy. The name Peter may be symbolic. Peter the Apostle is traditionally the first pope. This prophecy calls the last person to sit on his throne Peter the Roman. The name Peter the Roman suggests he is a pagan. He is the opposite of St. Peter. All the popes can be called Roman because they sit on a throne in Rome. It is important to note that at no time does this prophecy actually refer to Peter the Roman as a pope. Rather, it goes out of the way not to call him a pope. Let us take a closer look at this prophecy. In extreme persecution. Today the church is under attack from enemies from without and from within. Christians are experiencing different levels of persecution in different nations. The seat of the Holy Roman Church will be occupied by Peter the Roman. The word occupied has connotations of being under foreign rule. Who will feed the sheep? Many have thought that this reference to feeding the sheep would be literal, that Peter the Roman would set up soup kitchens or somehow give emergency food to needy Christians during the tribulation. Now that this last pope has come and gone, we know that that is not the case. Peter the Roman feeds the sheep by giving out communion. If he were truly a pope, there would be no need to say he will give out communion and occupy the seat of St. Peter. All popes sit on the throne of St. Peter and give out communion. Through many tribulations. Today we are suffering many tribulations. During the reign of Francis, we endured endless wars, mass immigration into America and Europe, unprecedented crime, economic instability, social unrest, plagues, and tyranny. NATO's irrational confrontation with Russia seems to be steering the world toward world war. Israel is now involved in a war that can engulf the whole Middle East, at the term of which the city of 7 hills will be destroyed. The tribulations that precede Judgment Day end when the city of 7 hills is destroyed. The city of 7 hills is the city of Rome, and the formidable judge will judge his people. The end. Peter the Roman rules until Judgment Day. The prophecy of the popes is now showing itself to be a true prophecy. Peter the Roman has already revealed himself to be the destroyer St. Francis of Assisi predicted he would be. St. Francis said, "In those days Jesus Christ will send them not a true pastor, but a destroyer." It is not a coincidence that the last pope is a Jesuit. The Jesuits have been a notorious organization for centuries. The leader of the Jesuits is referred to as the Black Pope because he is more powerful than the actual pope and wields power from the shadows. In 1773, the Jesuit order, officially called the Society of Jesus, was suppressed, meaning no longer an active Catholic organization, which is the same as being excommunicated. They were suppressed by Pope Clement XIV because of their wicked deeds. They were reinstated in 1814 by Pope Pius VII. The Jesuits are the architects of many wars. How many we cannot know because they operate in secret. The Jesuits function as a military intelligence agency. Abraham Lincoln wrote that the Jesuits were responsible for the Civil War, saying that Jefferson Davis would never have dared to fire on Fort Sumter without the promise of the full backing of the Jesuits. After Lincoln's assassination, John Surratt, the son of conspirator Mary Surratt, who was hanged for taking part in the Lincoln assassination, was smuggled to Canada by the Jesuits. He was later arrested while serving at the Vatican in a papal guard uniform in a guard called the Papal Zouaves. The rise to power for Francis was controversial, which is consistent with the phrase of the prophecy, will be occupied. There were many rumors about the power struggle going on behind the scenes, leading to the resignation of Pope Benedict XVI, who resigned under duress. Some claim he only relinquished some of his duties. When Francis became Pope, Benedict continued to live at the Vatican for almost a year. It was a very odd and confusing time. Pope Francis was called the Gray Pope because he was a Jesuit. He was the Black Pope and the White Pope at the same time. Peter the Roman lived down to all expectations. Francis reinstated disgraced sexual predator Bishop McCarrick and appointed him as his emissary to China. McCarrick negotiated a deal in behalf of the Vatican that gave the Chinese Communist Party the authority to appoint bishops in the Chinese Catholic Church. It has been alleged that the Vatican receives $2 billion a year for giving China this privilege. The actual Chinese Church became oppressed by the CCP and even had Cardinal Zen arrested, a man in his 90s and the highest-ranking cleric in the Chinese Church. Pope Francis was an extremely clever leader who knew where the line was. He knew if he went too far he would lose support and cause Catholics to leave the Church, so the Pope always made his controversial comments in a way to give himself a back door. For instance, he said, "I hope hell is empty," rather than saying, "there is no hell." But of course, no Catholic can believe that hell will not be filled with fallen angels and sinners. Jesus taught that the few travel the narrow path of salvation and the many travel the wide road of damnation. Another example is that Francis never said that homosexuality was not a sin, but he praised, promoted, and associated himself with those clergy that did. Pope Francis closed the churches during the pandemic, even when the bars remained open. Francis continued to vigorously pursue the Second Vatican Council, changing the Mass and Catholic tradition, and all but canceled the Latin Mass. He celebrated an Aztec false god called Pachamama in the Vatican gardens. He told the faithful that abortion was not the only political issue, downplaying abortion and undermining the effort to save the unborn. Francis was one of the biggest supporters of the immigration movement throughout the West, telling Christians it was our duty to bring them into our homes. This was an invasion, and it made Western nations less Christian and increased crime exponentially. Francis also criticized American politicians for opposing illegal immigration. Historically, popes defended Christendom from invasion. Francis opened the gates to the barbarians. Francis conducted the Synod of Synodality, or Sin of Sin for short. Besides other liberal changes, the Vatican has decreed that women may become deacons. Deacons are clergy. They say Mass. The law of God does not allow women to serve as clergy. This bringing women into the diaconate is a prelude to making women Catholic priests. There will be people who say that the prophecies of the popes did not come true because the city of Seven Hills was not destroyed and God did not come to judge his people in the lifetime of Peter the Roman, as the prophecy says. Pope Francis did destroy the Vatican spiritually when he declared that all religions lead to God. Do people who practice other religions receive the Holy Spirit? The gospel not only teaches us about God and Jesus Christ, it shapes us, turning us from children of the world to children of the Spirit. There is only one true faith, faith that God the Father chose Jesus Christ to be the eternal King over all the earth. Francis's declaration that all religions lead to God is consistent with globalism. Religion divides the world and makes global government and global unity difficult. On the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel at the Vatican, there is a painting of God and Adam almost touching fingers. It was painted by Michelangelo and is considered a masterpiece. It is also a sin that violates the second commandment, which prohibits depicting any likeness of God. Exodus chapter 20, verse 4. We now have another pope in Rome, Pope Leo XIV. He is no more a legitimate pope than Francis was. According to the prophecies of the popes, the last true pope was Pope Benedict XVI. The Lord has given us several signs showing his displeasure of Pope Francis. The first sign came even before Francis was elected. On February 11th, 2013, lightning hit the Vatican. This occurred on the very day Benedict announced his retirement. The greatest sign, however, was on the Pope's 87th birthday, December 17th, 2023. Lightning struck a statue of St. Peter at a church called Our Lady of the Rosary in San Nicolas, Argentina, destroying the statue's halo and the keys it was holding in its hand. This happened near Buenos Aires, where Francis was bishop for decades. The next day, the Vatican approved Fiducia Supplicans, which authorized Catholic blessings for gay couples. Another sign is that Francis died the day after Easter in 2025. Or did he die on Easter and for appearance sake, the time of his death was moved forward a few hours? It would be another bad sign to die on the very day Christians celebrate rising from the dead. My next video will be on Revelation. Thank you.